Not exactly national championship caliber teams competing on Friday night, but the games are fun. The action's been great, and the game's very competitive, very lively, very enjoying. Just remembered that I've got a sheet that I got to get to, and I'm all wired down here, but we're talking college football here at the Voice of College Football with you on a Friday night, Saturday morning. We are just 12 hours away from more football and the games that most of you are most interested in. Of course, Oklahoma, Nebraska at noon Eastern time. Virginia Tech and West Virginia, and a bundle of other really good noon games. Miami hosting Michigan State. I'm looking forward to that one. Don't, again, have enough televisions. I don't have enough TVs, not enough screens. I got to remember, other screens are available to me, and I use those every Saturday, but just not enough of them to watch all the college football I would like to. Fortunately, tonight, two pretty good games, and one outstanding finish, and we may actually have another one with Illinois taking a 17-10 lead over Maryland. The Illini just found the end zone to take the lead 17-10. 11:50 left in the fourth quarter. I don't know who is the favorite in this game. I would have guessed that Maryland would be a very slight road favorite. The Terps, of course, with a win against West Virginia in week 1, and then they beat whoever they beat, some kind of high school team in week 2, 800-0. Illinois looked pretty formidable in week 0 against Nebraska, and we know that the Illini returned to form despite a winning coach on the sideline in Brett Bielema. Very successful in the Big Ten, of course, but Illinois football back to form the last 2 weeks against Texas San Antonio and getting completely blasted by Virginia 42-14. We are taking calls here at the Voice of College Football as we look forward to week 3. So we will preview week 3. I'm going to give you my own personal viewing guide for week 3. And I don't have my sheet in front of me, so I don't know what else I was going to talk about. Of course, these two ball games, UCF and Louisville. I didn't pick the game. I didn't have that game on my prediction sheet, which reminds me I've got to make predictions as soon as this is over. I've yet to make my Saturday predictions. I'm getting to that a little bit late. So if you follow me on Patreon, hang in there. We got your predictions from our 20 media members there, but I've got to catch up on my predictions. Did not pick this game tonight with UCF and Louisville, but what a game, or at least what a finish, with turnovers all over the place and back-to-back interceptions that proved costly as Louisville in a 35-all game was driving for the game-winning points to set themselves up in field goal range. Batted pass at the line, picked off, put UCF in primary real estate to get a couple completions to set up its own game-winning field goal with about 25 seconds left to play. And then Dylan Gabriel, you would think, capable hands there as one of the top quarterbacks in the nation, picked off, and Maryland takes it for pick 6. Didn't get the name of the young man. I understand he's got 1 tackle this year, but now he's got 1 pick 6, and it was a closer, game winner, practically a walk-off, 13 seconds left to play. Maryland, or I keep looking at Maryland, Louisville, Maryland. Yeah, they're all a bunch of average football teams, but sometimes these are the most fun games, or with the mediocre teams that aren't going to factor into anything we typically talk about. But for a Friday night, I thought this would be a nice one. So Louisville gets a big win for Scott Satterfield. He needed that. They were annihilated by Ole Miss on opening night. They beat somebody last week, probably Western Kentucky or somebody like that. And so they needed this win. They got it in miraculous fashion with the closer, with a pick 6 from like 65 yards out after they were that close to giving up the game-winning field goal. So Louisville wins a stunner over UCF. Both teams now 2-1, 42-35 in that one. There we go. I actually produced some graphics there. Don't expect any more. That's the one that produced. Louisville 42-35 over UCF. Both teams now 2-1. And Scott Satterfield did make a good point after the game that his team had to play 3 games in 12 days because they played the Monday night game, then, of course, played on Saturday. So they had a short week last week. And then, of course, they had to turn it around for a Friday night game. For some reason, I kept thinking it was Thursday night, Friday night game at home against the UCF. The last time UCF was at Louisville, they took out the Cardinal and Teddy Bridgewater. Actually, the Cardinals, plural, not Stanford. The Cardinals in that game and denied Louisville of an undefeated regular season. We've got some calls coming in. Let's get to them now. And then I'll get to the live chat. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is the real MVP. How you doing, Mark?
Now, I just want to make sure that's the real MVP, right? It's not the real MVP.
Yeah.
It's the real MVP.
Duh.
Very well done by you.
Yeah, there was
Nice.
a speech where Kevin Durant, where he said his mom was the real MVP. And
Oh, that's
I love
right.
my mom
Yes,
as well,
I
so
remember
thought
that speech very well. Are you a Kevin Durant fan?
I respect Kevin Durant and
Okay.
what he does, yes. I'm
Yeah,
a
he's
fan.
pretty good at what he does. Pretty good.
Yeah, he's best pure shooter in the NBA, I would say.
Kevin
In my
Durant is the
opinion,
best
but that's
pure
not-
shooter in the NBA, really? Not Steph Curry?
Yeah, I would say so. Just because, well, Kevin Durant is tall enough to where he can get open at any point, even if he has a guy on him. Steph Curry, in my opinion, while he's a great shooter, if he has a good defender on it, I feel like Kevin Durant can get more clean shots off.
Okay. Good analysis
That's
there
just
out
my
of you.
opinion.
Steph Curry can make them from like the second row, but I don't think they let him shoot from out there. I've seen him like in pregame warmups, like be shooting from
Oh, yeah,
the
he can make
tunnel.
them from half court and stuff.
Yeah, I've seen him like
Oh,
step out of the
Steph Curry's
tunnel.
a
And
great, great
drop 'em.
shooter.
All right.
So
I'm sure we're going to lose viewers if we keep talking about the NBA, but hey, why not?
I wanted to give you a little insight because I was actually at USF
Oh,
versus
nice.
Wolves.
I love it. Thanks for calling. Give it to us.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you first, it was rowdy because it was also half 50% off beers. So you can imagine the place like that. It was. I was sitting in the UFC section as a Louisville fan, and it was insane.
Beers at those games cost
Insane
so
the
much,
entire-
though. You know, half price is only going to take you probably down to a regular beer somewhere else. But go ahead with your point.
Well,
I get
well, when you deal with college football fans and 20-year-old kids and stuff like that, half price beers is like the greatest thing since sliced bread to them. I mean, honestly, everybody was drinking, having a good time. It was a massive party. And then we got to talk about the end of the game because the roller coaster of emotions that stadium went through is something I have never experienced as a college football fan in my entire life.
Who do you
Everybody
root for?
was so happy.
You're a Louisville
I rooted
fan?
for Louisville.
Okay.
I root for Louisville except when they play Kentucky.
Oh, you're a Kentucky fan.
Kentucky first, Louisville second,
Okay.
everybody else third.
All right. I like your Kentucky team. I'll let you know that.
Oh, yeah. They're good, but I knew the reason I wanted to go to this game was because for Louisville to make a bowl game, I thought this was a must-win game. So I thought, because if they don't win this game, how are they going to beat Miami, Virginia Tech, North Carolina? So I thought, I want to go to this game. I want to see it. And everybody in the stadium kind of knew the importance of this game. And then with 3 minutes, or not even 3 minutes, 3 minutes, Louisville didn't get that first down. Everybody was like, oh, great, UCF's going to drive downfield and score. And that's what happened. I mean, there was no resistance all game from either team. But the defense, when that ball was tipped because of McLeod Cunningham, which we didn't know in the stadium, he had one knee, whatever happened to that injury. He threw that interception. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop in the stadium. It was horrible. People were crying. I'm pretty sure people were crying. They showed it on the Jumbotron. I was just, oh my gosh, it was horrible. beers were people. I saw people drop their beers. There was 2 people who dropped their beers there. So like, my gosh. And then the very next play, or maybe 2 plays, I don't even remember at this point, we got that interception. And it was just like, yes. Louisville's gotten. It was because it was just a huge moment for Scott Satterfield, for the team who'd been playing hard. I mean, Scott Satterfield, if he loses that game, he might lose his job. I mean, that's a very important win for Scott Satterfield.
It is. It is. I was just commenting on that as well. Yes. Now the people dropping their beers in the stands after a Louisville interception, I got to think that that's not necessarily the biggest shock in the world.
Well, if you're around where I'm at, football's not the biggest sport, not even close. So if Louisville or Kentucky are good, they're basically mostly bandwagoner fans, which is like, their team's good, then they'll watch them. If they're not good, they won't watch them at all. They won't call into shows. They won't watch Fine Bomb or the ACC Network or anything like that. So for this people to be this passionate about a football game, for me, was amazing.
Are they watching me, though?
I'm not sure how many people are watching you.
Okay.
I know more people should be watching you, though.
I was just kidding there. No, I'm glad that you called in, and this is amazing that you can give us a firsthand account on the game, because I thought it was going to be a really good game too. I watched the first half, and then I just thought that maybe this Illinois-Maryland game, just based on my typical priorities, I went to that and flipped back to the other game, but I've got it on DVR. So I did see the end of the game. I did see the pick six, and did see the last couple drives and the back and forth with the interception, the batted pass at the line, like you just mentioned. So I saw all the drama, but I want to go back and watch like the entire fourth quarter.
Let me tell you, there was 2 wide receivers who threw touchdown passes in the game. We're talking crazy. There was 2 halfback passes, and they threw it to a guy who was wide open. The first one for UCF, it was 21-14. He threw it to his running back. He ran to the right, and then he threw it back to the quarterback, and he had a convoy of like 3 or 4 people, and then he ran at 20 yards for a touchdown. And then Cunningham did a toss to, I forget what the wide receiver's name, but tossed it to one of the wide receivers. And then it was and then another wide receiver ran it to the other side, and he just threw the ball. I mean, it's a classic one. I forget the name of the play, but they both were wide open. It was crazy. It was insane there. Louisville's wide receiver has a quarterback rating of 880 now. So that's interesting as well. I mean, it was, I can't stress to the people. We're talking, did you hear the radio call for Louisville for the interception?
No.
You need to listen to that call, because it's up there with the kick six and stuff like that. That level of hype. I literally can't stress how important, how exciting this was to the Louisville nation, the Cardinal nation. It was just because if we don't make a bowl game this year, this would be the second year in a row they don't make a bowl game. Malik Cunningham will probably be out and transferred. They'll have to blow up the program and rebuild it like they did and after Bobby Petrino left. And they're going to be terrible for probably 3 or 4 seasons until they get a quarterback like Teddy Bridgewater or Lamar Jackson. And now that fate is probably avoided somewhat, because they'll probably go 7-5, 6-6, or 8-4. So this game meant a lot.
Well, it's one of the aspects of college football that I enjoy. While most people call up about the same teams and the playoff scenarios and all of that, I just like to see us let's enjoy the sport, regardless of who's on the field. And some of our best games are those games that are not played amongst the best teams. And I thought that this Friday night would be interesting. I especially thought that game was going to be entertaining, UCF and Louisville. And this game right here has got 7 minutes left. It's a touchdown game. It's a close game. And, Illinois and Maryland, they're not doing anything this year either. But I love watching college football, watch anybody play. Just want to see a competitive game. And, Louisville, Scott Satterfield, exactly, coming off the 8-5 in the bowl win. And a lot was expected last year. And they only won the 4 games. And to go out against Ole Miss and get blasted on opening night, it wasn't looking good for him. But huge game, huge win for him.
There was people last year, because of how weak the ACC was looking around and said, who's going to be that next team that steps up in 2020? Mm-hmm. A lot of people were picking Louisville.
Yes.
8-5 season, new coach. They beat Mississippi State, which was a solid team at the time. They're not as bad as they are right now. Barely beating Louisiana Tech.
Well, they beat NC State pretty well.
Yeah, but I mean, you can't be down 20 points to Louisiana Tech and be where they, in my opinion. Now, they can go out and set the world on fire, but for right now, they have an okay win and a quality win, in my opinion. But so a lot of people were saying that, and then when they just fell off the face of the earth, I mean, they were horrible last year. No defense at all. People wide open coverages, and especially when Louisville in prime time got embarrassed by Miami. I mean, there was 2 or 3 plays where it was just throw the ball, 75-yard touchdown, running wide open 75-yard touchdown, and people were thinking, got to fire the defensive coordinator. Scott Satterfield's better fix this, or he's going to be gone. And then we thought, okay, this year it's probably going to be his last year unless he gets a big one. This is a big win for Louisville. Not for the top-tier schools. Probably not even for some of the mid-tier schools like Kentucky or Ole Miss or something like that. But for Louisville, it was a great win. And that place was rocking.
So the real NBA fan, or I'm sorry, I've seen you comment.
The real MVP.
I don't know if that you've ever called, have you?
I called a few days ago to talk about Kentucky beating Missouri.
Oh, okay.
Because I think that was a very impressive win by Kentucky, and I really appreciated the way the program's going. I think they could be 9-3. I like Wandale Robinson. That honestly might be the best. That's the best player on Kentucky. That's one of the better players in college football. So I'm concerned.
I think I saw you write that, actually. Yeah, I thought that was an amazing pickup for Kentucky as well, and I've got my Kentucky blue on tonight. But I'm sorry to derail you there. I just wanted to make sure I got your handle right. And back to Louisville. So they win this game tonight. They're 2-1. They've got the non-conference game at the end of the season with Kentucky. So I don't expect them to win that game, but they certainly could, but I don't expect it. So if they go 2-2 non-conference, what do they need to do?
They can make a bowl game. Because
sure, they can go 4-4 if that happens. Go 4-4 in the ACC. You go 6-6. You get to a bowl game, and people are going to be okay with that.
I think 7-5 is probably what he needs to do. I think he can beat Virginia, Florida State. There was another team that's not NC State, Boston College, Syracuse. Yeah, they can definitely be Georgia Tech, Florida State, Syracuse. Then they have to choose between one of the other 2 teams in North Carolina State, Boston College, or they might pull. I mean, North Carolina's not looking as good this year.
They've got Wake Forest.
Right? They're not looking good. Miami's not looking good either. It's possible they be one of those 2. Possible.
Yeah, sure.
7-5 is very possible for this team.
It's possible.
And they make a solid bowl game. People will be happy. I mean, let's be honest, this is basketball country. This isn't football country, at least not yet.
Yeah, how many people were at this game? The stands looked about half full. But it was about
half full.
But it was hard to tell because almost everybody wears red and the seats are red.
Well, a lot of the top was pretty empty. I sat far back in the second section. I would say it was about half full. Nobody was in the top section, but Friday night kind of hurts the attendance as well, in my opinion, because there was a lot of, there's a lot of people with kids out there that can't go to the game, job, stuff like that. So I think that hurt. And I'm not sure if you knew this, but, and this also was probably some insider information. We played Eastern, not Western.
Yeah, I was taking a shot at that. I wasn't looking at the schedule, and I knew that that Louisville played Western Kentucky the first or second game of last season. But anyway, go ahead.
When they played Eastern Kentucky, it was the worst experience fans have ever had in their entire life for any football stadium. I mean, paper towels were run out, soap was run out, lines from the cash register to the wall because they were trying this new credit card machine or cashless machines that they didn't tell anybody about because that's a great idea, never to tell people you're going to change payment methods. There was hardly any workers at the ticket stand, so people had to wait 45 minutes just to get in. And they want food or anything. There was a few bathrooms that ran out of toilet paper. So a lot of people were upset by that game. And it was so busy that our local ESPN affiliate had calls. They had calls for 3 straight hours complaining about how bad the facility was. So this was a big game, not only for the win, but it was also to see the infrastructure of Cardinal Stadium. And it passed with flying colors there. Hardly any lines. Okay. People were getting food, drink.
Nice. They got their concessions and their restroom situation cleaned up for the second game. Good to know. All right. Well, I got some calls lined up, but I am looking at this Louisville schedule, and even though I picked them 5-7 this year, 5-7 was my original prediction. I do see the 7 wins right now. Syracuse, Duke, certainly some other teams. So definitely a possibility right there. I appreciate the call, man. It was
good talking to you, Mark.
Hey,
yeah, it was good talking to you. I hope to talk to you again.
Appreciate that. You have a good night, the real MVP.
You do the same. You do the same, Mark.
Absolutely, I will. And before we get to these other 2 calls, just in time, Voice of College Football, I am very thankful for your amazing endeavors. Sounds like I climbed Everest or something. Hello from deep inside college football territory, Greenville, South Carolina. Greenville, South Carolina. I knew that there was a Greenville. There's a Greenville. Yeah, Greenville, South Carolina. I believe that can't completely pinpoint that. I've never been there, I don't think, unless it's close to the coast. I have been to Columbia once, been to Myrtle Beach 3 times, and that's my South Carolina experience. But thank you for the kind words, just in time. All right. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
This is Curtis from Moreno Valley. How you doing?
I'm good, Curtis. What you got going tonight?
I want to talk USC football.
Okay.
I am a big fan, and I pay a lot of close attention to the program with as much as I can with media. I call podcasts, and they play my calls on the podcast, the Peristyle podcast with Ryan Abraham.
Oh yeah.
So if
I know Ryan.
If you want to know anything about USC right now, I can tell you, but I want to tell you this first.
Okay.
I'm really rooting for Dante Williams to win because he had a whole lot of low-hanging fruit that he could take care of that Clay Helton was letting go by. I'll just give you an example.
Yep.
In college football, you can hit with full pads on Tuesday and Wednesday. Clay Helton never hit on Wednesday. He was called a player's coach. He was real nice and good to his players. It was a lot of things that was going on. One that I really didn't like, he was letting people start that didn't deserve to start because he cared about them so much. You could have somebody on the bench that was much better, but he would let them play because they were a senior, or he just cared about them so much, and that caused some problems in the locker room. This coach had a whole lot of stuff to fix, and he can fix it right away, and I think they're going to play a lot better. They're favored by 9 over Washington State. I think they're going to beat them much worse than that. Washington State's in trouble. These kids love Clay Helton. They're very angry that he got fired. This is like the whole year they're gonna try to kill people because their coach got fired, the guy that they love so much. Any questions?
Well, what I'm a bit curious about is you just said that they loved Clay Helton and they're going to fight for him, even though he's gone. They're mad about the firing. But then you said before that Clay Helton was playing favorites and seniors, and that upset players in the locker room.
Yes, isn't that a conundrum? They said the kids cried like babies when they told them that their coach was fired. The athletic director did it in front of them, where he talked about it in front of them with Clay and with Dante Williams, and they cried. I'm sure it was terrible for them. Oh, and I have to tell you about this. At the end of the Stafford game, for the whole fourth quarter, the student section, everybody else had left, but the student section continued to cheer "Fire Clay Helton" and booed the team. Can you imagine the whole fourth quarter? Those kids were horrified. These are football players, good football players, been on teams, the best on their teams all the way up, and they had to hear that for a whole quarter. So they're being born out of this darkness. Everybody's in trouble, dude. These kids are going to be focused and angry, and they have a coach that is going to let the best players play at every position. Oh, yeah. Everybody's in trouble. I can't wait. And then what do you do if Dante Williams happens to win a lot of games? Do you give him a year extension if he gets them to the playoffs? They have that kind of talent. They just haven't been achieving it under Clay Helton.
Well, I think there's 4 decent teams in that division, and they are one of them. So, this program's been through this before, firing coaches at midseason and having an interim coach have to take them all the way through. And they've usually found a way to put together a pretty decent season under those circumstances. And they're probably the most talented team in the division.
You're right. That's what happened when Clay got the job. He went to the Rose Bowl and they were ranked 4th at the end of the season. But that was a team that didn't have all of his type of traits for any time at all. There was a Sarkisian kids and how he had trained them and how he had disciplined them. But after all these years with Clay, we got soft. We weren't hitting, so we couldn't tackle as good because guess why? We weren't tackling in practice as much as the other team. So, I think this coach is going to clear up a whole lot of things that can help immediately. And I can't wait to see the product on the field tomorrow night.
Well, he's also supposed to be a master recruiter.
Yeah, we stole him from Oregon. We paid him like double his salary to leave, and he had some kind of problem with his family in LA. He wanted to come back home, so that was great that he had all those reasons to come. But they moved him up over all the coordinators to associate head coach. That was a stunner for me. I was wondering, what are they up to? They moved him up over all offensive and defensive coordinators. He's a DB coach. But like you said, he's the best recruiter in the nation. He won that award 2 years in a row. So this guy you have to keep no matter who you hire, but I'm hoping for him to win so he can get the job. First black head coach in USC history. It'll be a story. It'll be a feel-good story. All kind of organizations will jump in. Maybe Black Lives Matter. Who knows? But I hope he wins. If he wins and continues to win, it'll be a bigger and bigger story. So I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, he's got his audition right in front of us. So he's got that audition for the next 10 games. And they're obviously, as you know better than I do, they're undergoing a national search. And I'm sure they've got a lot of big names in mind. All right, man. Well, we appreciate the call. Anything else tonight?
Do I have anything else for you? Oh, we have a running back, Keenan Christian.
Yes.
He hasn't been able to play because USC's running back coach decided at training camp that he was going to go with a 2-back system. In fact, spring he did that. And they brought in players from Texas. Now, this is my opinion.
Yeah.
Clay Helton made a deal with those Texas players to give them playing time.
Okay. Keontae Ingram.
Keontae Ingram. Let me tell you about Keontae Ingram. He missed the whole training camp. He was in his foot, whatever. He didn't play the whole training camp, but he still started the first game and the second game. Keenan Christian, the guy I want to tell you about, he's a junior. He runs a 10-2 100 meters, almost Olympic speed, proven on the field. Anytime he's played, he's broken long runs. He got offensive player freshman of the week. All the running backs was hurt at that time a couple of years ago, and they had to let him play at Arizona State. He got two touchdowns every time he started. Like I said, fastest player on the field, and you can just hand him the ball. Just imagine. So he hasn't played the first 2 games. This is another result of Clay Helton. He made a deal with the Texas player that he's going to start no matter what. I believe that. If you got a guy with that kind of breakaway speed that has proven himself, and he played all training camp, practiced all training camp, and you started back and hasn't been in training camp at all, I bet he gets to play tomorrow night.
Well, we appreciate the take on USC, man. Keep in touch and call back again sometime.
I will.
Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who do we have on the line? Hello? Hello?
Mark.
Yes.
Hey, Mark. Hey, DeAndre.
Hey, DeAndre. How are you?
Good. I'm not going to keep you long tonight.
That's all right.
I caught you and Jason. Yeah, I caught some of you and Jason's conversation. So I'm not saying Jason went as far as I went, but did Jason kind of agree with me? As far as if you set the standard with Willie Taggart, getting rid of Willie Taggart after a year and a half, you had to do the same thing with Mike Norvell?
Okay. That's been Jason's point ever since that happened. We've had a show now, we've had a show for 52 weeks. We've had a show for 2 years plus. So Willie Taggart was there when we started the show, and when he was fired, yes, that was Jason's. Jason basically made a decision, which I understand it, that if you fired a particular coach after 21 games who was 9-12, then you should make 21 games to Stanford for the next coach. I don't agree with that. Why do you make a mistake again? Yeah, I think first of all, I think every situation's different. You can't just say, okay, this guy had this record, therefore, if this other guy has the same record, we're going to fire him. That should be the record should be the first criteria when you're reviewing somebody, evaluating a head coach, is their record. But I for one, what we did with Willie Taggart would have absolutely nothing to do with Mike Norvell if I was running the show.
Yeah, right. Now, I totally agree with you. And I know you probably didn't have a go chance to look at mine, what I wrote, what I did. Thank you, man. But I will say this. A lot of people agree with me. A lot of people,
Sure.
Of course, disagree with me. So, my point is that, that if you made that decision, that's what it should be. But anyway, that's, man, Louisville killed me tonight, man. I can't believe that interception. I don't know why Central Florida didn't run the ball. Oh, my God, that hurt my heart.
Well, that's because Gus Malzahn likes to throw the ball, and they've got big-time quarterback, and that it wasn't his fault. The pick wasn't his fault. That was the receiver let it go right through his hands.
Right. I didn't see the game. I would listen to it on the radio.
Yeah, the receiver ran a slant, and the ball hit him right in the chest, and he bounced right off of him for a pick.
Oh, wow. Wow. Yeah, that hurt my heart, man. I know you don't like when I do teasers bet. Well, this was a parlay bet I did. I did it with the daggone Illinois Maryland game, the over. And that even got me. I was like, man, I just do 2 teasers instead of doing like 4 or 5 like I used to do in the back of the day. But I just couldn't understand it. It hurt my heart. I was like, and Maryland, everybody was, I don't know if you brought this up, but everybody was talking about how good Maryland receivers were, and that Illinois couldn't guard them. It's just hard to bet against Illinois because you never know what you're going to get. I mean, that Nebraska game, I kind of leaned toward Illinois as we talked about, but tonight everybody in the world was like, man, Maryland, Illinois cornerbacks were not going to be able to guard Maryland receivers.
Yeah, because
and I was like, and you got
that was because they couldn't cover Virginia last week.
Yeah. Maybe Virginia was better than what everybody think they are. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say. It is hard to say. It's a long season. I mean, the ACC Coastal is all of a sudden an interesting conference to watch. I mean, because you got Virginia Tech, you got Carolina. Virginia looks good. Who else you got? You got Pitt, who looks decent. I mean, you got a whole lot of teams, Mark, over there that all of a sudden looks decent. And depends, we haven't seen what Clemson can do since the Georgia game. And depending on what Clemson does, if they haven't got that offensive line fit, and I know Georgia Tech might not be the best judge of how good Clemson is, but if you don't got the offensive line fit, man, Clemson's going to be in some trouble. The skill players are okay. But, I mean, the way Virginia Tech defense goes, and I know Virginia Tech offense doesn't do good, but, I mean, Clemson might be in some trouble for the playoffs today if they haven't approved their offensive line in the middle, especially the interior. Because those other teams got some good pass rushers. So I can't wait for the hey, I'm listening to Mark.
Yeah, to me, the North Carolina State and Pitt games are the ones that could be interesting for Clemson.
After North Carolina State let me down against Mississippi State, I don't know if to trust them or not.
Well, don't trust them. I'm not telling you to trust them. I'm saying just I'm not trusting anybody in the ACC outside of Clemson to do anything consistently well. I don't think any of those teams are that good. But on a given day, North Carolina State, Pitt, those are 2 road games. Of course, Boston College, that game's at Clemson, and they lost their quarterback. And I got to look into their backup situation because, Boston College, I don't know if they're off this week. I didn't see their game. I know that they've got Missouri non-conference.
They got Temple.
Oh, they've got Temple
this weekend.
Okay.
Yeah. You got to watch some of them games, man. That's what we like to love about college football because I'll tell you what, say whatever you want to say. Both of those teams were -7 underdogs, 7-point underdogs, and they were home. And they showed great heart, and you just never know what's going to happen. Because everybody was piling in on their side. They're putting the money on Illinois to lose and Louisville. I won't expect them to win those games. I thought it was kind of great to see that. I mean, it hurt my pockets, but you shouldn't bet anything that you don't have. So it was exciting to watch, and I was like, "Damn, man, there go my money." But It
Okay,
is what it is.
DeAndre, I'm looking at last week's top 25 games, and what do I tell you all the time? Do you remember what
What's
I say all the time? That there are going to be about 4 upsets, money line upsets in the top 25 every week. Last week, Oregon +7 won the game. No, I'm sorry, +14 won the game. Iowa +4, 4.5 won the game.
Mm-hmm.
Stanford +17.5 won the game. That's 3. Arkansas plus a touchdown won the game. And BYU 7-point underdog won the game. That's 5 in the top 25. 5 upsets in the top 25. I say it every week. There will be 4 to 5 upsets in the top 25 every week.
Now, let me tell you what I did do. I think Florida State's going to beat Wake Forest.
Okay.
The reason why I say that, so they got to. I know. Let's take the Willie Taggart discussion off of this. If they don't beat Wake Forest, now Louisville is kind of iffy. Who else you got? Syracuse is iffy. And then you got that long run of Clemson, Carolina. I think they play Miami and Florida. And you got UMass in there. So looking at maybe a 4-game, not looking at a winning season. And I don't see how he survives it if he doesn't beat Wake Forest. So I want to put some money on the money line because I really think they're going to beat Wake Forest this weekend.
Okay. I just
It's
looked
going to
at,
be a close game.
Yep.
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Mark.
Well, I just looked at week 1 and
What'd you
counted
say?
up the upsets as well. Top 25 in week 1, 5
Right.
upsets. Week 2, 5 upsets.
What can you say?
I'm just saying
No.
that I've been keeping track of this for like 4 years, and there are about 4 upsets every week in the top 25. So where are they going to be tomorrow? I kind of like Michigan State. I haven't made my picks yet, but Michigan State at Miami, kind of like that one. Who knows? Maybe Indiana wins at home against Cincinnati. Maybe Purdue upsets Notre Dame.
That does seem like to be a very popular one. I ain't seen Purdue play this year, but I don't know why that's such a popular pick for everybody.
Because Notre Dame
Because Notre
struggled
Dame was
2
that
games.
bad. Right.
Auburn could go
Well,
to Penn State, 5-point underdog. Maybe they win that game.
I haven't thought about looking at that game because I can't see him watching Auburn play. Because I don't like the way Bo Nix play. But hey, was Frank Willis the one that transferred that plays at Liberty? Was he the quarterback at Harvard at one time?
Yes, Malik
Was
Willis.
he there?
Not for long. He was there for a while, but he didn't
Yeah, 'cause-
play. He played a little bit.
Yeah, because they were rotating him in.
Yes.
In one game, they didn't let him go in. Like, he thought he had a play. And Gus Lazar didn't let him go in. Isn't that amazing? Now he's going to be a possible 5-star. I'm not going to say top draft pick, but he's going to be in there. And I don't think Bo Nix has any type of NFL potential.
Yeah. So
I'm just saying that's kind of amazing.
I'm looking at it right now, and Malik Willis was supposed to be the next guy, and yeah, he didn't play as much at Auburn as I thought he did. But anyway, he backed up Jarrett Stidham. I was confusing him for a second with Jeremy Johnson, but that was a couple of years prior.
Now, I'll let you go, but I got a question about the USC coaching job. I saw Eric, the enemy, already say he's really not interested in it. So do you agree with Kyle Hurt that you need an NFL person for a job like USC?
I saw that. I don't. Colin Cowherd goes a little bit too far to always thinking about kind of like the look of the situation, the intangibles. If you really go through it, you know, he made a comment. So I'll watch these, and I used to watch Cowherd a lot, but I haven't watched him recently, not because I don't like him, but I do think he's interesting. I don't agree with him a fair amount of time, but you know, he tends to skew the facts to fit his narrative. So his narrative was that they need an NFL coach. Well, he cited John Robinson. You know, he said, okay, they had Pete Carroll, who had an NFL job before he went to USC, and John Robinson. Whoa. John Robinson had the Rams job after he was at USC. He was a college coach first. Then he went to the Rams.
Right.
Then he went back to USC. And he made a couple of comments about guys like that that were, he kind of flipped their tenures around. So no, I don't think that they have to. We can go.
The person I would thought was.
We can go through all sorts of examples. Like he was saying, he was making comments about small towns like Happy Valley at Penn State and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and Auburn, Alabama, and he was just throwing out and you know how much different it is, and the head coach is used to having his way and being able to do anything he wants, and that they're just completely blindsided by NIL, which I don't believe that for a minute. Depending on the coach, there's 130 coaches out there, so they're not all exactly the same. There's plenty of examples of coaches excelling at the collegiate level in a small town and coaching in the NFL.
Right. So, yeah. But I'll say this. I think Hugh Freeze would be great for USC, but I know that's probably not going to happen because of the porn stuff or the prostitution stuff, but I just think that he needs a second chance. I mean, Shark got a second chance, and I just think that would fit him because I don't think he was a bad coach. I mean, he's winning at Liberty, and I mean, I don't know how much you follow college basketball, but if you look at Liberty sports, Liberty has a good college basketball team and a good college football team. And, you know, I think Hugh Freeze deserves a second chance. And I think he will fit that system at USC very well. But, I mean, I don't got no say in the matter, but I feel like that'd be the best suit for a head coach. If I would want somebody, okay, I went off and repaired my name. I did some crazy stuff, but I know. Hey, you deserve second chances in America, you know, and I think he deserves a second chance. I think he'll make a great coach at USC. I got no say so in the matter, and if they do get rid of Mike Lavelle, I would say if I was Florida State, I would be all over Hugh Freeze. I mean, I just think that guy he should be out there next because he just the way he does what he does with speed is just amazing. So, you know, but I give other people a chance to talk, you know. I'm glad you I don't know if you asked my question to Jason or not, but I'm glad you got a chance to talk to him about it. You kind of went down the same way I went. If you're gonna make that the standard, you might as well do it. I mean, but like I said, I ain't no Florida State fan, so at the end of the day, it really don't matter to me one way or the other. If they hire him or not, fire him or not. So.
Well, again, to be clear, I would not have hired Willie Taggart. I also would not have fired him at the time that they fired him. I would have given him a third season. But I also would not make that the criteria. I would not make that. And I can understand from your position why you're making the point that you are. And for anybody that wants to make that point, I understand that they set a precedent. I could go all over the country and show you precedents that were established and broken. I wouldn't let that hold me to making a poor decision just because they did something previously. But I get your point. I get your point. I understand your point. And the crux of it is basically whether he was let go because of his skin color. I have no idea. I don't contemplate it, not because it's not possible, but because I don't know. And we know that things like that happen. All right, DeAndre, thank you so much.
You know what, Mark?
Yep.
Okay. Good luck. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Appreciate the call. All right. Who's up next at the Voice of College Football?
Hey, buddy. How you doing? First time caller.
Well, it's good to hear from you. What's your name?
Jeff Stapleton. I'm an Alabama fan, so
Nice.
you already know.
Hey, Jeff. How are you?
Game. The game's coming up. I want your thoughts on what do you think about Alabama's chances of defeating? Because I'm pretty sure they will. I just want to hear your thoughts on it.
My thoughts are that Alabama's defense is devastating. I think it's phenomenal. It has the potential to be phenomenal. I shouldn't jump the gun there. They've only played one somewhat quality opponent, but I just think that their personnel, despite some losses, despite getting nicked up a little bit here early in the season, which they have, I just
Will
don't.
Anderson's coming back.
Yeah, so Will Anderson should be fine, correct?
Yeah, he's coming back. He was practicing. He's been practicing all week.
Okay, yeah, we talked to an Alabama guy a couple days ago, and he said the same thing. And the two corners were held out of last week's game, but that's not an issue this week.
And let me say something to the Florida fans. I hope they all are listening. Alabama played Mercer, right, and beat them 48 to 14 or something like that. And they were talking about how their defense or whatever. I said, and I put on so many comments that, well, you know that Nick Saban took the players out in the second quarter, to preserve them for the next game, which is against you. So, I mean, what do you think about that? I mean, they talking a lot of smack, man, for real.
Okay. Well, my thought there is that if you go through Alabama's performances against FCS and low group of 5 teams through the years, that they've certainly gone out there a number of times and won those games 55-0. But exactly. So they made personnel switches early in the game. Nick Saban doesn't care about the score. Obviously, they're comfortably in front. There's no threat of them losing the game. He doesn't care about point spreads. He doesn't care how it looks. No. He wants to do what is best for his football team, and that means getting the reps to the players that need reps, getting them in game situations, getting the combinations of players on the field that he wants to see, getting the rest to the guys that need to get the rest, doing all those things because he's looking at the big picture. And 48-14, 48-0, 68-0, it doesn't matter.
Also, they were talking about, they've been talking about how Saban was, on the team last week, we had a bad week of practice. He hasn't said nothing like that. He's actually been kind of jovial. He kind of come in there and said we had a really good week of practice and a day of practice, so just keep going from there, hopefully. And he sounded sincere when he was talking about it. I think. What do you think about Bryce Young and his ability? Do you think? I mean, I know they were talking about the O-line was kind of weak, but I think they've already fixed that problem. With all this practice they did this week. Well,
I know that Saban commented about some missed assignments against Mercer up front. He wasn't happy about that. I didn't see a play in that game. I watched the first half of the Miami game until it was just not watchable anymore. It didn't matter, and wanted to see other games. But I think Bryce Young is. I said the entire offseason that Nick Saban choosing his quarterback at the start of spring practice and having that decision made said all we needed to know about his evaluation of Bryce Young. For him to make that, when in the past it's always been a quarterback battle between, the Blake Sims year in 2014, that was a quarterback battle that went right down to the wire. The Jay Coker year in 2015, he won it late. Of course, Jalen Hurts didn't become the starting quarterback until, the second quarter against USC in the first game. So there's been all sorts of quarterback battles. So he's not afraid, Nick Saban, to say, hey, I got to make a decision here, and we got to see these guys play and wait till the last minute to do it. But he was confident enough in Bryce Young, and we saw it in the game against Miami. He was almost flawless.
So what do you think about they keep talking about the game field as a hostile environment, and they act like Alabama's never played any big games or something like that? Because our stadium holds 110,000 people. We played in the Georgia Dome and beat them 38-10 in the rain, and they had 100,000+ people there, and they were screaming their heads off until they had sitting on their damn hands. So it's going to be a good game, but I just hope we run over them. I mean, I don't want them to have no chance to come back. No chance. So.
Yeah, my thought on the whole crowd situation is that in terms of a quarterback, first and foremost, these guys are all different. So you can't say that every young quarterback gets rattled in front of a large crowd the first time he's going to face a hostile environment. That's just not true. We're not going to know until he plays the game. And of course, if he doesn't play great in the first half, that's what people are going to say. But we don't know if that has anything to do with, he played on a big stage a couple of weeks ago. No, it wasn't a hostile environment. It was a neutral site. It's going to be a little bit different of a setting for him, but I don't think that's going to rattle him. I don't anticipate that.
No, I don't see it. No. He's got too many weapons to go to. He's got too many weapons to hand the ball to. I mean, our Alabama is loaded with good players. I mean, 5 stars all around. I mean, I'm just looking at and they keep talking about Anthony Richardson and Emory Jones. All right, Emory Jones has already threw 4 interceptions. I mean, he gets in front of our defense, which is, like you said, devastating. And I definitely agree with you, because it is devastating. And when they see the full entire defense that's going to be against Florida, them quarterbacks will be shaking in their shoes.
Yeah, I think this game's going to be somewhere. I haven't made a pick yet, but like 38-17 comes to mind. Something in that range. I don't know if Florida scores 17 points.
No, I think they ran their mouth a little bit too much, just like they did last year. And another thing, they don't have Pitts, they don't have Tony, and they don't have Trask. And you got to have somebody that can throw the ball down the field. And we already know they have a problem with throwing the ball down the field and interceptions. And I mean, who is it that they play? USF got 20 points on them. I mean, do you honestly think they should have got 20 points on them?
Well,
I don't.
We were just talking about the Mercer game, though, and that game was 35-0 at the half. So I don't know how much those points really mattered either. Neither team has played. Well, of course, Alabama played Miami, and that tells us a lot, because Miami's not a great team, but they're a really good team. They're a talented team. They're a legitimate top 20 team. I think they will be this year, and Alabama just
I wish them good luck for the rest of the
them.
season. That'll make us look good when it comes down to playoffs and stuff.
Yeah. All right. Well, I appreciate the call. Anything else here?
Oh no, I'm trying to get ready for the game. It's like I said, I'm ready for it. So y'all have a good one, and thank you for listening. and thank you for your insight. And it's just, I like your show. It's pretty cool.
I
I'll give you a
appreciate
thumbs
that.
up and, on the
Thanks
way
for
in.
calling in tonight.
All right.
Enjoy the game tomorrow.
All right, man. All right, man. You too. Bye.
All right. A little part of me feels bad when I cut off a caller like that, but it takes about, whoever the 616 number is, if you'd like to try that call again, I need to be able to hear tomorrow. We've got some big games to listen to. All right, you're on the line with the voice of college football. Who's up?
Hey, Mark, it's George. We've waited about a year for this.
Oh, yeah. Well, I guess you have.
It's been about a year of agony, and here we are finally.
Okay. If you really want the agony, you may get some more tomorrow.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay. I'm not either.
I don't care. Hey, listen, I'm a Florida Gator, and even if we lose to Alabama tomorrow, it doesn't mean nothing. If we win all our other games, we're still going to the playoffs. We will get to play Alabama again unless Texas A&M or Auburn is there. Who cares? But we can win or we can lose. It doesn't matter. You follow me?
No, I don't follow you, because if you win the
well,
game...
here's what I'm saying.
Okay, I understand
Here's
what
what
you're
I'm
saying.
Like,
I understand exactly what you're saying, George. If you win the rest of your games, you're going to be in the playoff. Absolutely. But at the same time, it still matters. It still matters if you win the game or lose the game.
That's how bad it is. I'm just telling you, there's nobody like the Southeastern Conference. We could lose to Alabama tomorrow, go win the rest of your games, beat Alabama to play in the Southeastern Conference championship game, and go to the playoffs.
What you just stated is the same situation with every other conference in America.
No, it's not.
It absolutely is. George, you realize
the SEC will get.
You realize what conversation you're in here. You realize what conversation you're in. Do you want me to truly give you 15 examples of what I just said? Every other conference in America since the play. Listen, just for a second, George. Every other conference in America, if it produced a one-loss champion, made the playoff. Every other conference in America exactly. Except the same exact situation that you just gave us about Florida has happened in every other conference. One loss in the regular season,
but Alabama,
win the conference, go to the playoff.
I agree, except Alabama is going to take their playoff spot, even though they lost to Florida, because we both beat each other once. We're both going in. That only leaves 2 spots for everybody else. Good luck. Alabama beat us once. We beat them once. That's 2 teams in the playoffs. Who else is going in? You got 2 teams left out of the whole country.
George, you are the same person that has called me a million times and told me that it's incredibly difficult to predict college football games. And here you are telling me exactly what's going to happen this season. That sounds somewhat familiar to what was supposed to happen last college football season with Florida, and it didn't happen.
You know what? I could be wrong, but you've seen Anthony Richardson. He gets like 157 yards on 3 plays, right?
Against
he's averaging like 43 yards a play. Yeah. That's called kryptonite. Everybody else is Superman, and we have the kryptonite, you know? You're not going to stop the dude. He's 6'5", 340 or something. He runs 4.4. All right, 240, but still, that's close. 6'5", 240. You can see people jumping out of his way when he runs. Oh my God, I can't wait till we have this conversation after the.
Yeah, we'll talk about it. We will talk about the game.
Did you see Louisville? Did you see Louisville UCF tonight?
I did.
So can you imagine you had a bet on that game? In the last 2 minutes of the game, you won, you lost, you won, you lost, you won, you lost, you won, right? If you were betting on the right team. It was like, you won, you lost, you won, you lost. Oh, my God, I won. Did you win? Did you win that game?
I did not predict that game. I am right now looking up to see what the line was on that game. I did not predict either game tonight. I still have to predict yesterday's. I still have to predict tomorrow's games. Let's see.
All right.
What was the spread on this game? Can't find
Mark, you just got to see the last 3 minutes of this game.
UCF by 7. Okay.
It was Steven Spielberg wrote the last 3 minutes of this game. It was insane. And Louisville won.
They did.
I'm proud of them. That was amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's number 11. He's a big man on campus. It's like, thank you. He made an interception and ran the ball back with 10 seconds to go. After they lost the ball on the previous play through an interception. You know, how can you predict that kind of shit? It was incredible. Congratulations to who was it? Who beat UCF? Louisville. Congratulations, Louisville. My God. Their quarterback was playing on an injured ankle. He was limping, but he stayed in, and they won the game. It was good. It was good, Mark. Last 3-4 minutes, best stuff you've ever seen.
Well, yes, it's one of the better games that I've seen in the second half here. We've only had 2 weeks.
Right, so you're telling me that Florida can't win by 1? Florida can win by 1. Right?
They could.
I need Florida.
They could.
Right, I need Florida by 1. It's a big deal. People asking me to predict scores. I'm like, can we just win by 1? Why would I predict a score? How about Florida by 1? You know, it's crazy. Why would I say 38-17? Like, can I just win by 1?
Go with
I think
28-27.
Yeah, there you go. 20-27. 31-30. How about if we go for 2, 32-31? Can't wait. I don't have to leave the house tomorrow. I have food. I have everything. It's like a Greek wedding. I have everything I need. I'm ready.
You and me, brother. You and me. All right, George. I'm going to get to some of these other calls. Right. You give me a call tomorrow night.
Yeah.
All right, George.
I will.
Have
Later.
a good one. Enjoy.
Bye.
All right. Next up, for the voice of college football, who's on the line?
Hi, Mark. Sean.
Hey, Sean. What's going on?
Hey, not much. I think it beeped in earlier, and somehow our connection got disrupted, so I had to call back in, and I got my money's worth on that last call. I'm not disappointed. That was something else. I was when I was looking up the games last week, like this slide, my initial impression was this was kind of a dud of a week, kind of a lame week. But then you look through, there's actually like kind of a lot of interesting matchups.
Yeah, I thought the dud was last week. I thought the dud was last week.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I remember falling asleep a couple times from the television set, but this I'm just curious. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, and I told them I honestly think if Cincinnati was in the Big Ten this year, right now, just based on what I've seen, I think they would be the favorite in this league. And they're only favored against, they were a top 10 team coming into the year, and they're only favored against Indiana, who doesn't look particularly impressive at all, by 3.5. I know it's on the road, but it's barely a road game. It's 2 hours away. I mean, this is that line seems really soft to me. I don't know. I mean, I'm expecting Cincinnati to kind of rock them tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, don't overreact to previous results. That's all I have to say. I've yet to predict the game, but I have to do that before I call it a night. But I would not see Cincinnati winning the Big Ten. It's the second best conference in America, and I understand what you're saying. Ohio State looks like they're off their game, and Cincinnati looks good in the one game that they play every year against that level of competition, or at least they did last year. Let's not forget that Cincinnati was roughly as good 2 years ago as they were this past season, and they lost in Columbus 42-0.
That was an all-time Ohio State team. I mean, I'm not saying this Ohio State, this Cincinnati team would not even be close to a favorite against that Buckeye team. I mean, that Buckeye team was at least 3 or 4 touchdowns better than this one is. I personally believe.
Well, I don't know if they're an all-time team. They're kind of like a, top 3 or 4 team of the decade. Ohio State turns out those kind of teams a few times a decade. So yeah, it was an extremely good Ohio State team. No question about that. But I would need to see Cincinnati play against that kind of competition. They played Georgia. Georgia was missing a ton of players in the Peach Bowl last year. I thought Cincinnati could have won. They should have held on to the ball, and the game management could have been better at the end of the game and won the game.
Incompletion on that 3rd and 3 or whatever that saved Georgia about 45 seconds. Yeah, that was pretty critical, but a big error by Fickle that kind of surprising, real out of character because he's one of the sharpest coaches, I think, in the country.
But I think tomorrow's game is going to tell us a lot. Not that Indiana is great by any stretch, but if Cincinnati wins the game, let's say they just win the game, they win 30-28. Well, that's going to tell me that they're about as good as I thought they were. Now, if they go in there or they win by a touchdown versus winning by a decisive score, then.
Weren't you the one that just told me to don't overreact to one single instance, though?
Yeah, but
just a minute ago,
I absolutely was. But I'm also telling you that Cincinnati doesn't play like in the Big Ten, where we can say, okay, they played them, and them, and them, and them, and them, and them. They play, and they got Notre Dame in a few weeks. So obviously that will be another data point to say, okay, well, they played great against both of them, or they played lousy against both of them, or it was some combination of both. So every game reveals something else to us.
My fear with Cincinnati and sort of building a resume, because I honestly think they're going to win both of those games, and I don't think they're going to be particularly close, either one of them.
Okay.
The Notre Dame game will be interesting because that's a totally different environment. Indiana, I don't think Indiana's going to have much of a home field advantage.
No.
It won't come into play. Playing in South Bend's a totally different thing, but I expect them to win both of those games. And one of the reasons I expect them to win both those games is I think both of those two teams are fairly mediocre. I mean, I think Indiana's going to really struggle to get bowl eligibility. I think they're missing a couple key pieces. Like they basically got one receiver. They can't run the ball. They don't protect real well. Their defense is solid. It's good, but Penix is, I thought he was great last year until he got hurt. But then I looked up, he only completed like 55% of his passes or something like that last year. So, and that was with, much better weapons around him. My feeling is that their best win will be against the Notre Dame team that finishes like 7-5 by the end of the year. And I don't know. And I don't think there's another team in the American that will really count as a quality win. I don't think there's another team in there that will be a resume builder at all. So they'll be stuck in the same situation that they were in, and they'll just need there to be probably fewer than 3 like one-loss Power 5 champions in order to build any sort of playoff resume. I don't think they're getting in over a one-loss Power 5 champion. I know that's way off in the distance, but you there? Sorry.
Yeah. So you think Cincinnati's going to go undefeated, and they're not going to struggle against Notre Dame or Indiana. And, we're looking at it would have helped if UCF would have won tonight. Not that would have been a big win for UCF, but obviously
UCF's probably going to lose. UCF's probably going to lose like 2 or so more games.
Sure.
Anyway,
Sure. So they're probably.
Yep.
The Cincinnati's going to face, a couple 9-3 type teams in conference, like Memphis and UCF, and maybe somebody else. We'll see. Well, Tulsa's already lost a game.
Tulsa already lost twice. Tulsa's 0-2. Yeah.
So
lost to an FCS opponent. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, like it's no big deal. I mean, like you can't expect much being in the American Conference, but the way Notre Dame and Indiana have looked this season, and I mean, it's 2 weeks into the season. You have no idea exactly how the season's going to play out, but I don't really foresee those being like linchpin victories in a playoff going resume. I just don't. I mean, maybe Notre Dame will fix everything and they'll go 10-2 with one of the losses being Cincinnati, and that would be great. But I don't know. It's weird though, because like they're a 3.5-point favorite, and I think they're ranked ahead of Florida. If I'm not mistaken, they are ranked ahead of Florida. They're sort of in that same range. Florida, Texas A&M. Do you think what would the spread be if those teams were on the road against Indiana? Like it'd be a lot more than 3.5, wouldn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
So there's something. I don't know. Like my feeling is Cincinnati's kind of up there. I think this one they've got like this is one of those like 2010 Boise State type of teams. I really feel they've actually got real like NFL players. They're going to have probably 7 or 8 guys drafted.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not like you can expect them to do this every year, but I feel like they're undervalued and they're underappreciated.
Oh, they are
by Vegas, but yeah,
and they'll continue to be, even if they win some of these games against big Power 5 opponents. But at least those people that pay attention, and again, like you're saying, it's going to be crucial to them for Indiana and Notre Dame to turn around and have the type seasons that a lot of people expect them to, which I would say would be more in the 8-4 range for Indiana and 10-2 for Notre Dame.
Yeah. I mean, and like obviously, a lot has to turn around on both teams. I think for those to be realistic finishes. But just want to talk about Buckeyes for a little bit. That defense right now, this feels different to me than 2014 when, they were breaking in a whole bunch of starters and really struggled and then completely turned it around. Right there. This is watching their defense, they just don't even really seem to have players. That's I've never seen an Ohio State team and never thought, oh, okay, that guy stands out. That guy,
Yeah.
Even when they've had, rough defenses, like a couple of years ago, like you could say, oh, Chase Young, he's a real baller, and Okuda, he's a real he's a real corner. I'm not seeing any of that from any of these guys right now. Are they just like super young everywhere, or?
Well, I think you got a great point. It's the same point I made on our last Ohio State show that, if your defense is full of 4 and 5 stars, they even have 3 5 stars just on the defensive line, that to your point, even if you've schemed incorrectly, even if they haven't been developed and they're not playing well together, you would see guys flashing 5 or 6 times a game. To your point,
Absolutely.
a Jeffrey Okuda making a break on a ball to pick it off or knock it away, a safety that covers ridiculous ground to get to a receiver that's single teamed.
Mm-hmm.
Just a ridiculous play off the edge from a D end, all sorts of things. A nose tackle blowing up a play in the backfield because he just throws the guard at the quarterback. That defense, for as bad as they played against, let's say, the Maryland game in 2018 might have been the worst game I can remember Ohio State playing on defense when they gave up 300 plus rushing.
Agreed. Totally.
I'm sure they made plays in that game.
Should have lost that game, man. Yeah, completely.
Yeah. Like nobody made any plays in this. It took until the last 2 drives of the game, really the last 3 drives. With the one drive, Oregon was just trying to run out the clock. So the 2 drives before that, where they weren't devastating on defense, but at least they got a little pressure, and Brown had to throw some balls out of bounds and threw some incompletes, and they stopped the run, and they got 3 and outs those last 2 series before the final.
Oregon was still playing pretty conservative at that point. Like they weren't real. I mean, like they it's not like they were using the full playbook. They were really, I mean, they might have been still not trying to run the clock out, but you know, they weren't opening it up like they were early in the game. And I mean, what I was concerned about, I mean, the scheming was terrible. It was so vanilla. It was so predictable. But I mean, yeah, like I said, the thing that concerned me the most, the thing that gives me less optimism about them turning it around, is just where are the impact players? Where is this 5-star ability that everyone? I haven't seen it in either game, either against Minnesota. Maybe Harrison Garrett made a couple of nice little penetrations, but you know, for the most part, they were pretty ordinary. And outside of that, like literally nothing. I don't know a single linebacker's name yet. I really don't. I honestly, I bet, like, it's crazy. They just look completely ordinary. They look athletically, they look completely average. And they're not going to win any battles with scheme anyway. So I mean, like, what you're a Buckeye fan. What's your optimism level for transformation?
Well, it's not extremely high because they failed to make adjustments during the game last week. So that's not on the players, of course, that's on the coaches. The other issue I see is that Josh Proctor is out for the season. And although he's no star, he certainly had star potential. He was a top 50 player coming out of high school, but you know, he seemed to play that position of getting everybody lined up on the defense and playing that safety position. And it was the disaster after he left, and they just, I don't know that they've got anyone to replace him. And I think that's an important loss. On the positive side, you know, I'll cut the 2 5-stars along the defensive front that are freshmen. I'll cut them as a huge break because it was only their second game. And Tui Moloau has only been on campus for like 6 weeks. And you know, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, those guys were not superstar players right out of the gate. Game 1, game 2. So
I'm gonna beg to differ on that. Those Bosas were pretty good as freshmen. I mean, I'm not saying they were.
I said game 1 or game 2. So
yeah,
we may see different players in Sawyer and JTT in week 10, 11, 12 than we see now.
Yeah. So Sawyer did a nice job of drawing a completely phantom holding call last week at the end of the first half. It really saved the defense's bacon in that spot. I mean, that thing about that. Yeah, they actually had some Oregon had some bad breaks against them on offense, and they still just dominated completely. So I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering. You're just getting maybe a little ahead of yourself here, but I mean, I kind of think year 3 is sort of the make it or break it year for a lot of head coaches. You can kind of, because they're working with a lot of the infrastructure that was left behind the first couple years.
Yeah, I think that's
especially
fair.
A coach like Day, who was part of the staff and he knew everything so well about how things were done, and probably very few radical adjustments. And I mean, I don't think Ohio State will be bad with him. And I think he's an excellent tactician. But there are things in this program right now that do actually concern me. Things like the trajectory in the way this is going. Being a coach, running a game plan is one thing. Running a program is totally different. It's not the same thing at all. And I mean, this might be the year we see, some warts, some blemishes that, maybe he's not going to be the next Saban or something like that. Maybe you can't just count on winning the Big Ten like you almost certainly could in the past 5 years under him. So I don't know. I mean, we'll see. I mean, if they're pretty ordinary this year, I think that gives a good indication of where the program is going. Because I don't even think Oregon's all that great. I really don't. They struggled against Fresno State the week before. They weren't extremely good last year. They've been essentially like a number 20 team in the country for the past 5 years. Am I really supposed to believe they're that much better this year? Especially last week, they were missing a number of their top players, and they still just came in and beat it might have been a one-score game, but they pretty much dominated. I don't know. This is a little concerning.
Oh, it's concerning. And your assessment of Oregon's pretty spot on. I would say that they were much better than number 20 in 2019. But yeah, over the course of that 4 or 5 years, and they've recruited better than that. So maybe that recruiting's taking hold. Sure, they had an NFL
in 2019 also they also had a quarterback who's one of the top 10 in the world.
Sure, well that's part of the deal, the assessment of the team. But they've got one now that apparently is going to make the right decisions. If nothing else, he's not exceptional, but I just I think everything that we saw last week that is concerning about Ohio State is legit. I think it is concerning, and I think that if they don't play considerably better, and most of that's, like you say, there's more to running a program. There's player acquisition, which they've got down cold, but then the rest of it's individual player development, it's game preparation, it's game adjustments within the game, and
it's also building like a unit, a family within the team. Having a family structure that helps with this. I mean, you can bring in all the players in the world if they just view you as like sort of a factory, it's sort of a farm system for their ultimate goals. I mean, I think there's some limitations to that as a program. So, I mean, I don't know. I hope they turn it around, because the Midwest definitely needs to have, for regional balance sake, it's good to have at least one power that's not in the South. But
all that said, if you're going to line up a team against every other team in the Big Ten next Saturday, and I've got to risk my mortgage, it's still going to be difficult for me to bet against Ohio State against any other team in the league.
I agree, but I'm certainly not as confident in that as I was 2 weeks ago.
Oh, absolutely not. Sure.
You put them on the field against Iowa and in Indy tomorrow. Who are you taking? I don't think that's not an easy choice at all.
Oh, it's not. I didn't say it was an easy choice, but I'm saying if my mortgage is on the line, I probably have to still side with them in a neutral site game. Iowa's extremely good, and I believe in what they're doing, and I think they have an identity and all that, but they cannot live on 3 scores from the defense. And they created most of that, but you can't create that consistently against good teams that are going to protect the ball.
Some flukiness to it.
Yeah, there is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep.
No, I mean, I think they have one thing I can say is that I think their offense, like with those weapons, with the receivers, they have, and I still think Stroud is good enough. I think he's at worst a solid quarterback, and certainly has a lot of room to develop. I'm not going to bury him after 2 weeks of playing just pretty good football, and they're in every single game just because they can chuck it and they can score in 2-3 plays at any moment. So I mean, that's obviously an enormous advantage in college football. You can get dominated the whole game and just you're still in it all the time. That's I think they have the potential to honestly be maybe the best offense in the country if they can really get their running game on track, really get it going. I mean, I think they do have that potential, at least for this season right now, because that receiving core is out of this world. It's better than first time I can actually say something like this without it being completely hyperbolic and outrageous. Their receiving core right now is better than the Detroit Lions receiving core. I would actually trade places with them and not have a second thought.
Well, I know every time they show Garrett Wilson, he's open by 4 or 5 yards. It seems like he just puts a move on his man and just gets open. All right. Well, I appreciate the call.
While they can just track the ball. Thank you, Mark. I really appreciate it. You have a great weekend.
Yep. Enjoy the games. All right. We'll take these 2 calls. Please, nobody else call. It's impossible for me to know how many people are waiting because it only shows me 3 waiting at a time. So I know that we've got at least that, but please, nobody else call. Don't want to have you wait on the line. And we're looking at 1:37. I got to make picks. We got to get up early, all that sort of stuff. But thank you so much for being here. There was a super chat early in the show, and I've explained the issues with trying to post those when the live chat gets to a certain point. I can't go back and grab it. So I apologize for not getting to that. I can't even see at this point who that was. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hi, Mark. It's Ben. How are you?
Hey, Ben. I'm doing well. What's going on?
I missed a lot of your stuff today. This week, I've been kind of busy, but I got to catch the show tonight. And actually, what I wanted to talk with you about was a lot of what the last caller talked about, kind of the Big Ten and where you see Ohio State, and you guys kind of talk mostly about that. My feelings on Ohio State right now is as far as Ryan Day, everybody's talking. A lot of people I know. I have a lot of friends that are Ohio State fans. They're talking about Ryan Day and whether he's a good coach or not. And I think he's a good coach.
Word.
I think
what's wrong with people?
He might not.
You know what they were all saying about. You know what they were all saying about Ryan Day. A week ago, they were basically anytime Ryan Day was brought up versus Urban Meyer, it was like, well, Urban Meyer's a bum. Ryan Day's going to national title games and he's not losing any games and he's better than Urban Meyer. And I'm like, well, Urban Meyer did that for 7 years at Ohio State and did it for 20 years overall. He's got the best winning percentage in the history of the game in modern college football. But no, Urban Meyer was we're done with him, and Ryan Day's the greatest. And now he lost a game, and now he's a bum, and he needs to go. Oh my goodness!
The torches in Pittsburgh come out really quick in Columbus. There,
yes, they do. They do.
I mean, I understand to some degree because he did just like the other caller was talking about. Ryan Day inherited a system, and he might be a great coach. He might just not be a great head coach. But it's still too early. He's an offensive guy. Maybe he just has to take his knocks too. He's, it's his first head coach job. Other coaches got to take knocks, as head coaches for programs nobody even remembers them being at, and he just started right in the limelight. So kind of, not maybe it's not going to be the clean. I mean, I think he's done really good so far. So, but anyways, yeah.
Well, there's a certain level of a track record or precedent that's not available to us, meaning that there's only so many times in the history of college football that we've seen a great college football program in great shape handed to a new guy. So most recently, in addition to Day, is obviously Lincoln Riley taking over for Bob Stoops, and it's transitioning pretty much the way it has from Meyer to Day. But other than that, man, I'm searching for a situation in which a great college football program that's basically winning all of its games, losing like one game a year, is moving on to somebody else taking it over, and then, trying to determine how has that worked out in the past.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Really good point. I think as far as what are you projecting? I mean, how do you have Ohio State projected for wins loss through the rest of the year?
Well, I picked them to go 11-1 is what my original prediction was, and they've already lost this game.
Is that are you sticking with that, or are you expecting another loss?
I think the probability is that they're going to lose another game, but it would not surprise me in the least, because I do think that they're the best team in the conference if they win the rest of their games. But it's going to be difficult. They've got 9 conference games, and they're fortunately for them not going to play Iowa or Wisconsin, because those are 2 potential losses that could have been scheduled. But it's basically Penn State, and I don't know about Michigan. For me, it's Penn State's the biggest threat, and then in either Indiana or Michigan.
And fortunately for Ohio State, their schedule is pretty. I mean, you have like 5 games before you come to Penn State.
Yeah.
Oh, you actually don't. You don't even play in. You play them at home, so that's pretty. That's a long time for them to right their ship.
It is, but that's the one team in the conference that's given them consistently the most trouble since 2014.
Yeah. That'll be interesting to see. I think the quarterback situation, having the young quarterback, I think if he really starts, because Ohio State, just like you guys were talking about with the receiver core, if you get good quarterback play, the defense, it's going to be like, I mean, Ohio State could be like Oklahoma, not have any defense and still just win every game because they can put so many points on the board.
Yeah, what doesn't add up to me is I looked at their drive chart the other day, and even though they had all this productivity, 612 yards of total offense, 612, they scored 4 touchdowns.
For Oregon, or that's not or just one game, was it? You're talking about total so far this year?
No. Ohio State had 612 yards of offense against Oregon.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they had 612. Oregon had 505. They outgained them by 107 yards. But what I couldn't really figure out is exactly is they only scored 4 touchdowns. They had the ball 13 drives. Well, one drive was the last drive of the game where they basically had no chance. And one drive they wasted because at the end of the first half, they should have scored points. I don't know what Ryan Day was telling C.J. Stroud when he went onto the field, but that they completed a ball to like this 18-yard line with 1 second left, and that they didn't throw the ball into the end zone or kick a field goal, that was a mystery to me. So they wasted that yardage, like 65 yards at the end of the first half. And basically, for as poorly as they played, they needed just to convert a couple 4th downs. They went 2 for 5 on 4th down, and most of those were deep in the red zone because they didn't kick field goals. They decided not to kick field goals, and they went for touchdowns, and they only went 2 for 5 on 4th down.
Yeah, I have to rewatch that game because I didn't even think of it. I mean, I didn't notice.
Yeah, Stroud threw for 484, and they had 126 rushing. Or 128. 612.
Yeah, that's. I agree with the other caller too. I don't think Oregon is as good of a team as they looked versus Ohio State. I mean, I know it's early in the year, but I didn't think Oregon, when I watched them versus Fresno, I didn't think they were that great, and I thought thought there were, but that's great. And it's a great thing about college football. It's early in the season, and we still don't know. I mean, I'm a Michigan fan. I'm still waiting to see what Michigan does against Wisconsin, because it doesn't really matter until we play Wisconsin. We're not going to know anything.
Well, Ben,
and I'm hoping that we have a.
I'm sorry, Ben. Finish up there.
Go ahead. Oh no, yeah. I'm just hoping we have a. I'm hoping we have a competitive. I hope the game is competitive this year, Mark, and it'll be. Hope that, and the Ohio State current situation got me a little bit more hopeful of that. So, but anyways, I'll let you go. It was nice talking with you. You guys, you have a good night, and I'll be waiting to see your predictions.
All right, Ben. Enjoy the games tomorrow. All right. What Ben was doing there is basically what we're all doing at this point in the season, because we're saying, okay, Penn State beat Wisconsin, but is Wisconsin really that good? And how good is Wisconsin? Well, we need to see them play somebody else to know how good they are to evaluate the Penn State win, because Penn State's offense looked awful, but their defense looked amazing, looked like the best defense in the country. Well, they were playing Wisconsin. Wisconsin's offense probably horrible. And so everybody, like Auburn hasn't played anybody. And there's a number of teams around the country that have played nobody. So you can basically say nothing about Oklahoma. They played Tulane. They've got a pulse. That's about it. They're a top 65 team in the country. They barely beat them. But most teams have played one team. And so then we're kind of wondering, okay, how good are they really? But I'm pretty confident of most of these teams in terms of what I anticipated. So when Penn State goes to Wisconsin and wins, it's not the greatest victory in the world. They didn't beat Alabama, but they did go to Camp Randall Stadium and they beat Wisconsin. And I'm pretty sure that Wisconsin is a top 15 team in the country. And I'm pretty sure that they've got a top 5 to 10 defense. I'm pretty sure that their defense is amazing. Their offense is limited, that their offensive line is outstanding, that Ches Malusi's a good back, not a great back, not a marginal back, a good back. I believe that Graham Mertz is a talented quarterback who's currently making mistakes and is yet to be a consistently good quarterback, and that they're limited on the outside in terms of playmakers, and their tight end Jake Ferguson's a really good player. So Wisconsin, even though we've got a limited sample size on everybody, there's certain teams especially, I'm pretty sure of who they are. Wisconsin would be one of those teams. So I can evaluate the Penn State win. Was it a great win? Yeah, it's a pretty darn good win. One of the best wins in the country to date, regardless of what the score was. Everybody gets too hung up on defensive games, meaning Penn State goes to Wisconsin, wins 16-10, and people think that that's a garbage win. They didn't do much. Their offense sucks. Both teams' offenses suck. They only won 16-10. If Penn State would have gone to Wisconsin and won 46-40, it would have been, oh, that was a great game. Penn State won. They won at Wisconsin. Well, the scoreboard pretty much shows us some deficiency one way or the other. If Penn State would have gone to Wisconsin and won 46-40, then wouldn't people have been throwing up their hands saying their defense sucks? But we get enamored with scoring. All right. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark. This is Eric.
Hey, Eric. What's going on?
Not much. Off work. I work in a bar, so I kind of missed the games tonight. I checked my phone. But, yeah, enjoying your show. The first thing I wanted to say is the state that I live in and my team plays in is Oregon. I don't know. It's a pet peeve of mine. It's Oregon, not Oregon or whatever else I want to say. But it's neither here nor there. What I wanted to talk to you about, last time we talked about the SEC meaning more. It just means more. You were talking about how other conferences may not sell out 110,000 stadium versus a MAC team, which I think is an absolutely fair point. But it made me think about something I saw on the news and I've seen for years about how pissed Nick Saban gets because all of his fans leave before the game's over.
Yes.
And there is even suggestions that they fine or penalize students who enter the game and then leave early. So I'm not saying it's like it's a trump of your point or that point, because I do agree with you. It does mean more, but how do you reconcile those ideas? And is there a chance that, maybe your fan base can get a little bit too spoiled?
Okay, so I apologize because Eric, the beginning of your dissertation, I could not make that out until you got to the specific Alabama. Nick Saban gets pissed off, blah blah blah. So what do we? I'm sorry. What's the?
Okay. Last time we talked about the SEC meaning more, right? That they saw 110K stadiums versus MAC teams.
Yes. Okay.
And you get it.
Well, the last point you made about is that actually fact that they are fining students for leaving the game early?
No. There were just suggestions, and this has been a meme about Nick. I mean, Nick Saban's always pissed, right?
From
he
who?
By 30.
Who's the knucklehead suggesting what is this? Is this a communist nation or something?
No,
we can't allow people to leave games when they want to?
No, of course not. But you can look this up. It wasn't. Saban is always pissed about something, and it's winning by 25 points instead of 40. And it's also his student section leaving before the game is over.
Okay.
And he has commented about this multiple times.
Sure.
I'm asking you if the SEC means more and they sell out 110K versus the MAC, but everyone leaves at halftime. Is that just a spoiled team? Is that the same thing that your Buckeyes just went through?
I really don't. Somebody would have to give me statistics on all the largest stadiums in the country and the biggest football programs, and at what point people leave the games. I don't know how that compares. Like, I haven't really taken note of, okay, Ohio State's winning 51-3, everybody's leaving or everybody's staying.
Perhaps.
And Penn State.
Perhaps, and that's not what I'm talking about, but Nick Saban has directly addressed this multiple times. So I'm surprised that it's news to you.
Yeah, but I don't know how that compares to other teams. Because it's a one-off. I'm just asking you, are Alabama fans, of course there are diehards, but can you get spoiled to winning, I guess, if you want to take all this out? I'm not. Sure, you can get spoiled.
I'm not targeting anyone specifically. And is OSU experiencing that right now? Because it seems like it is to me, because all the talk is about their loss and not about Oregon's win.
Oh, yeah, I think it's very similar, just showing itself in different ways. But Ohio State fans have very high standards, and those have been built over decades and decades. I know growing up as an Ohio State fan, I thought they were going to go undefeated every year. They rarely did, but I just thought that they would and felt like that they should. And over the past, really since Jim Tressel took over, they've been playing at a over 90% winning percentage, which is pretty ridiculous over a long, long period of time. They have the best record in college football this century. But I just think that, some Ohio State fans, just like any other fan base, some are delusional that, just like the previous caller had called about, people wanting, Ryan Day fired, or that he's really not that good of a coach. And,
that's absurd.
Yeah, it's absurd, especially considering that I'm guessing most of those same people a week earlier. I know from the feedback that I've received since Ryan Day has been the head coach and been as successful as he has, that suddenly Urban Meyer wasn't very good. Ryan Day is better than Urban Meyer, just because they have yet to up until last week, experience a regular season loss under Ryan Day. So they just jumped to conclusions that he must be better than Urban Meyer. Time will tell.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's a stupid comparison, and it's way too early to make that comparison. And the fact that they were related, or they were related in terms professionally, I don't even really know. It seems like Ryan Day is a continuation of Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Thus far, he is. So, for example, I picked Ohio State to lose a game this year. And I don't know how many people told me, well, Ryan Day doesn't lose games in the regular season like Urban Meyer did. Urban Meyer would blow one game, but Ryan Day doesn't do that.
Yeah,
so,
that's being spoiled.
It's so ridiculous for you to predict that Ohio State's going to lose a game this year. I'm an idiot. I was told by a number of people I'm an idiot. How can Ohio State lose a game? They're 2 touchdowns better than everybody on their schedule, and there's no way they're going to lose a game. Ryan Day doesn't do that. Just because in basically 1.5 seasons, he hadn't lost a regular season game. People think that this is going to continue forever.
Well, and that's you execute so many times, you're in the playoffs so many times, you win so many times, it's normal for that expectation to build up. But this is the only thing I want Ohio State, Alabama, any of these Clemson fans to understand is that as a fan of another program, even it doesn't matter if it's Oregon, it doesn't matter if it's fucking Tulane. I'm sorry. It's annoying to see these teams lose. I mean, it's great to see them lose, but it's so frustrating, like seeing them scramble. Like, how did this ever happen? And I guess it's natural, but it's as an Oregon fan, it was such a huge win for us, and I'm so disappointed in the coverage that has been 99% what's wrong with Ohio State instead of what's right with Oregon.
Yeah, I got you. And that would be frustrating, and I appreciate that perspective. But that's also just natural perspective that I think we have as humans, and especially in this country, that instead of crediting the victor, we have to look for blame. We have to figure out who's incompetent, who should be fired. I've said this a million times. Competitive athletics is different than most of the industries and the jobs and occupations that we've chosen.
You can't have multiple winners.
No. You could have a staff of insurance salespeople, and they could all be successful to varying degrees, and you could be pleased and say they're all doing well and they're successful, and they go home at night and feel good and they get their paycheck. But every coach in the country, every coaching staff, every player could be busting their tails and very competent and capable and doing everything that they possibly can and can be first rate at what they do. Somebody's got to lose the games, though. Somebody has to lose half the teams have to lose the games every Saturday. So those people are failures.
Sure. No, that's not.
I don't believe they're failures, but you know what I mean.
I understand
we
your
say
point.
they're failures.
Yeah, I mean, but like any good, solid college football fan knows that the pinnacle is not winning the championship necessarily. It's, hey, my team went to a New Year's Six Bowl. My team won the conference. My team won this recruit. My team. There are so many tiers to this, and that's when I start to sympathize with the non-expansionist. I'm an expansionist. I think 8 teams is the right number. We don't have to go into that right now. But I do understand the value of conference games and conference championships and that tradition. So I'm so mad when I'm waiting on hold for other callers to finish. So I want to be sympathetic towards that. I have one last point or something I want to ask you about. So something that's been happening, especially with Oregon beating Ohio, is the slander. The meme is the O represents how many national championships we won or whatever. And, I hear this from Georgia fans and stuff too. And it just got me thinking, like, like, when can you stop being super proud of those wins? Like, if a Georgia fan tells me, oh, Georgia has this many championships, it's been 40 years, but we have them, and Oregon doesn't have any, like, that doesn't seem like a flex to me. Like, I'm thinking more in the last decade, maybe the last 15 years, maybe the last 20, and especially right now, who's dominating, who's doing what. The fact that Nebraska has championships in the past means absolutely nothing to me right now, but it seems like it means a lot to fans of those programs that are clinging on to the past. And as an extension of that, I was wondering, if you were a coach, would you rather have 4 natty appearances and win none of them, or have 1 natty appearance and win it?
So that's a great question. I will go to your previous comment first. Every fan base, when I say every, understand, I mean like 98%, because, there are outliers of people who are just more logical and reasonable and so forth. But generally, every fan base who takes up the argument that you're just outlining goes to the time frame that's convenient for them and for their argument. So if they are Iowa State, obviously they're focused on right now. They have the best football program that they've ever had right now, and history means nothing. If you're Miami, then you're leaning on 5 championships from forever ago. Shoot, we've got so much back and forth on my channel between Miami and Florida State fans constantly, because I've got a Miami channel and shows, and Florida State shows, live shows. And the chats are flooded constantly with them picking on each other about. The Florida State fans can say, it's been 20 years since you won a national championship. Well, it's now been 8 years since Florida State. I don't know when the statute of limitations runs out on bragging about a national title. It depends on who you are.
Yes.
Because if you're Florida State, then 8 years ago, 2013 to them is relevant. Well, why is it relevant? Well, it's because they're Florida State and they won it in 2013. If they would have won it in 2016, they'd be saying, well, 2013 was too long ago. So it all depends on, some people, will obviously pull their national championships from 1920 and raise them to the roof. If you're a Michigan fan, let's say.
But what's your idea on that? Like, it's so annoying, and it's going on again, and who is this guy that I've been talking with? Tim Prangley. He is a USC stan, and I've been arguing with him all night in the chat and about how great of a job USC is and how USC runs the West Coast. And it's like, that hasn't been the case for the last 15 years. At what point does that end?
Yes. Well, they're not running the West Coast.
I'm
they're not.
I'm totally biased. I grew up in Oregon. I went to the U of O, of course. But I think objectively, that's just not true anymore. It's just not true. If Miami doesn't run the ACC, it's no longer the case. It once was. There's a nostalgia for that and a longing that we can get back to that point. Nebraska's at the same stage, probably way worse.
Well, not to nitpick or correct your statement, Miami's never run the ACC. They've never even won a conference championship because all of their dominance was pre-ACC. So they've never won anything in the ACC.
I knew, dude. I knew you were going to come at me with that old head stuff. I knew it. Yes,
and that's why, and I'll just say this real quick, and you can continue with your point. People call me all the time and say, "Is so and so relevant? Is Georgia relevant?" And I'm just kind of a pragmatic type person where I just don't throw phrases around. I have to say, what is your definition of relevant? I'll give you mine, just so we understand what we're talking about. If some people is just, you have to win a national championship, or I'm not talking about you. You mean nothing. You're garbage unless you won a national championship. Now, in what time frame? It all depends on the person that's talking. Other people are just more about, let's be really good and competitive. And those are typically the fans that have good football programs, but they haven't won a national championship in a long time. It is a fascinating topic to get into with different fan bases about their frame of reference on what's relevant and what's meaningful in 2021.
Sure. I guess my final thought on that, and again, I'm hyper aware of the fact that Oregon has won 0. It's on all their jerseys, right? I think when I consider relevancy in my own picks and my own my preseason thoughts, it's the last 5-10 years. And of course you have to consider coaching changes and injuries and coordinator switches. But when I'm looking at Georgia's schedule, I'm not like, I mean, they look really good, or Nebraska looks really good in this game, or Vandy looks really good. But, Georgia got that title back in 80. So, I got to kind of pull for the dogs. Like, that is not a thought in my head. And when that is the argument, I just feel like it's grasping at straws.
Okay. Your national championship question, I'll just say this. I'm not impressed with national championships. They obviously mean something, and they mean more as time goes on because of the way we've changed the format. But I think they're very flawed, and they're not subjective. The game that was played was not subjective, but the entry into the playoff, the entry into the BCS championship game, all of that is very subjective and based on human opinion. So you can go to any year on the map and I can give you a legitimate dispute on who won the national championship and how legitimate it is. Even Alabama's national championship last year, they were the best team in the country. They won all the games. They did everything. So I'm not questioning their national championship, but there were teams in the playoff or teams left out of the playoff who had just as good a resumes as teams that were in the playoff.
I mean, so you're making my point for me.
I'm not a big national championship guy because I think it's been so flawed throughout the years. Does it mean something? Yes, it means a lot. It means that team was really good. It means that particular team that won the national, but for every national championship scenario, I can give you either 1, 2, or 3 teams that probably earned the right to play in that game just as much as the teams that did play in the game. So I'm not a big national championship guy. I don't.
Okay, so but the question was, would you rather have 3 or 4 appearances, or would you rather have 1 win and no appearances? Would you rather be Ed Ogeron or Lincoln Riley?
Well, Lincoln Riley's not been to one yet, but I get your point. So based on how people think in this country, they want the 1 win. We're gold medal people. We're that Ed Ogeron national championship, aside from those who talk about it and all the help he got, and Joe Burrow and Joe Brady, and discrediting maybe him contributing to it as much as most head coaches do, he still has the ring on his finger, and we put a ton more weight on that than anything, in comparison to consistent greatness. Who's a better coach, Bill Snyder or Ed Ogeron? Well, to me, Bill Snyder's legacy destroys Ed Ogeron's at this point. Like, if Ed Ogeron never coached another football game, to me, Bill Snyder's a much better coach than Ed Ogeron and accomplished much greater things.
Well, I mean, you just made an interesting point, because you said we were more concerned about the win, and but Ogeron is very much, or about the big ones, the natty one. Ogeron is very much on the hot seat because he can't be consistent.
Yes.
So, I mean, how does that work with the point you just made?
Gene Chizik has the national championship.
Mm-hmm. But if Ogeron's going to get fired with a national championship under his belt because he's not consistent, it kind of flies in the face of your point saying that America, you'd rather have the one natty win than the 4 appearances.
The perception of me would be better with the one natty than the 4 appearances because people again focus on the negative. By most people.
You think by college football analysts?
Most fans, I don't know about the smart analysts, I think would credit the 4 championships or the 4 championship game appearances to say, look at the consistency of being able to stay at the top and bring a team back from a loss the year. But it's just like the Buffalo Bills going to 4 consecutive Super Bowls and losing. Most of America made fun of that. Yeah. Now, people credit
maybe mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe it's not Lincoln Riley per se, but this is the example I'm using. It's LSU versus OU. Like, in theory, it's not about those 2 teams specifically, but Oklahoma's made playoff things. The whole thing is that they find a way to lose, and LSU, I mean, yeah, historically, I'm not talking about that. We already discussed this. In recent years, LSU has won the championship handily, best team in a very long time, and now they're losing to UCLA. So, I don't know. I'm on the consistency side of that. I just wanted to hear your thoughts, and I really appreciate your time, and I'll talk to you soon.
Well, I appreciate the call. I'll have one other comment to make after we get off the phone here about LSU, but thanks so much for the call. Enjoy the games tomorrow. The thing about LSU, though, and I bring this up all the time, that if you take away LSU's 2019 championship, since they stepped off the field against Alabama after the 2011 championship game, BCS championship game, people view LSU as this high and mighty program, and they recruit like it, but they lost at least 3 games all of those seasons, 2012, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 20. 3 to 4 losses all those years. But I will say that since Nick Saban took over LSU in 2000, yes, and then won the SEC in 2001, LSU's, even though they haven't been consistently great, elite like Ohio State during almost that entire time, Alabama since Saban, Clemson since Dabo's 3rd or 4th year, etc., their dips are not awful dips. They're 9-3. 9-3, 8-4 is LSU where they live. Now they popped up, boom. BCS championship 03 popped up, boom. Only 4 years later, 07 BCS championship. In 11, boom, back to the national championship game. Boom, 19, 8 years later, national champs. So that is 4 times since 03. That's 4 times in 18 years that they made the championship game, and they won 3 of them. So that is getting there pretty consistently. And then the other times, it's not like they're going 5-7. They're finishing in the top 15 in the country. All right, last call of the night. And you guys need to be with me and everybody else here at the Voice of College Football throughout the day tomorrow, because we've got, I'm going to post all the post-game shows. I'm going to post all the post-game shows that we will provide for you on the various team channels. I'm going to be hosting the Ohio State post-game tomorrow after they annihilate Tulsa. I guess they will. We'll see. Who's on the line?
Well, let's hope they annihilate Tulsa. Mark, as a diehard Ohio State fan, I'm kind of hoping that that's going to be the case there, man. I will say this about LSU. They've won the 2nd most national championships in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And I do find it interesting that they played 4 national championship games, and they've had the luxury of playing those in the Louisiana Superdome.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't that be akin to the Buckeyes playing the national championship game at Brown Stadium? Isn't that about the right analysis, Mark Rogers?
Well, it absolutely is. And I know, especially now that they've closed the roofs on these things, it's been almost 50 years since they've had closed facilities. That why aren't they, why is there a possibility, a fairly high possibility, as you just pointed out, that teams like that can play that close to home, and all of those teams reside in basically the SEC and in California? Basically, those are the only two areas.
Sure.
And it's really not, I hate to say it's not fair. It's not fair. How many times has an SEC team, or I'm sorry, how many times has a Big Ten team, and the answer, I guess, is twice a year, gone to Florida to play in, well, now with the current contract, it's sometimes 3 times in a postseason, gone to Florida and played in Tampa, Orlando, and Jacksonville at the Gator, Citrus, and Outback Bowls against Florida, Georgia, Auburn. Is it?
Well,
is it unfair?
Apparently there's a need for.
Extent.
No, it is. I mean, apparently there's a need for warmth come January. So that's why we go south, or that's why we go out west. I think that's the basic math of it.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's
unless you have a dome. I've always said that if you can get to, the Silver Dome, Metrodome, something like that, that would probably help the cause. So I wanted to ask you, Mark, I didn't get a chance to ask you about the Clay Helton situation. I know you cut a video on this. First of all, I wanted to ask you, if you had to rank USC as a job, where would you rank it right now?
Right now, I don't think it ranks as high as it should or would historically, because I don't know. I think that they get weighed down by the Pac-12. I think that I believe that student athletes that are that good to pretty much choose to play wherever they want to generally hear about and probably have other guys that they play with, and all these guys have a fraternity of, the guys that are 5 stars and 4 stars talk to each other and go out to all sorts of camps. I'm sure they know that the Pac-12 is joked about and isn't considered to be as good as the other conferences, and that the interest isn't as high, and that's got to affect their decision. And
go ahead.
And despite USC's greatness and tradition and everything else, they are in the conference.
Yeah, I was going to say this, Mark. First of all, I think it's one of the top 5 programs of all time. I'll say that. And point number 2, I still think it's one of the top 5 jobs in the country. I mean, you can call me crazy, but I think because, first of all, I think that being in the Pac-12 benefits them. Because I think that, if they recruit at a fairly good level, they should be able to win that conference. I would also add they still have a great recruiting base. They still have one of the 2 or 3 best recruiting bases in the country. Now, I know that, players now aren't as, regionalized and as apt to go, locally as they used to be. And I know the days of Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart are getting further and further away for a lot of these high school students. But nevertheless, I mean, I think I still believe that the right coach can do really well there in a conference that's totally winnable with a really good recruiting base. Tell me where I'm going wrong with that analysis.
You're right about California talent, but you're not as right as you would have been 5 years ago. I don't know what the reason for this is, but if you look at, and I'm no recruiting expert, but I just go by the numbers, that California was neck and neck with Texas and Florida in regards to producing great high school talent. And it slipped into third place, and it's not close, and maybe even fourth place behind Georgia.
Okay.
So there has been some slippage
I think
there.
top three. Okay. No, I was just going to say, Mark, I did say top three, though. I mean, if you're going to say fourth, I mean, maybe we could go there, but it's close.
But they're not close with Texas and Florida anymore.
Okay. Well, I would say this. Even if it's the third best recruiting base in the country, I think USC could get a fairly good amount of players there that could help them to win the Pac-12 and make the college football playoff.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, if they keep them home. Yep.
Right. And even Pete Carroll, and I'd be interested to go back and take a look at this because their heyday during the Pete Carroll years, I would be interested to take a look at this because I analyze rosters from time to time. I don't do it quite to the Steve Dace level, but who does? I would say this, Mark. I wonder what percentage of their 03, 04, 05 rosters were California players. Because I think they went out of state and got some talent, Mark. I don't know if you have a breakdown on that.
Well, can always be looked at, but USC 2003 roster. Well, that's certainly not it. From 247 Sports, they let me down. Yeah, I don't know if any. Here we go. Here's a 2003 USC roster. Nope. I Googled 2003 USC roster, and I click on a link that says 2003 USC roster, and it's the 2021 USC roster. Makes a lot of sense. So anyway, yeah, we could look at this at some point. I can't find a 2003 USC roster that has high schools listed.
No, that's okay. The only point I was making is I think Pete Carroll nationalized his recruiting a little bit. I'm not saying that he didn't get a lot of players from California. I know Leinart was from California, and he had other guys from California that were part of that roster. But I think that he also did a fair amount of out-of-state recruiting as well. But what I'm saying is, I mean, I still think, and I always thought Clay Helton was just a mediocre coach. I thought he was like the Wayne Fontes of college coaches. Remember Wayne Fontes with the Lions?
Sure.
Just did enough to keep his job in the 90s with the Lions, made the playoffs, before they finally fired him. And I think that's the same thing with Helton. He just did enough to keep his job before they would fire him because they could not get an elite coach. I don't know if you saw this. Did you see Colin Cowherd and Joel Klatt had an interview on what the top 10 candidates were for their job?
No.
Okay. Well, I mean, they listed like the top tier people, which would be like the people that would basically say no to the job. And that would be Dabo, Urban Meyer, the people that you call that are at the top of the list and at the top of the game. And you say, force us to say no. You know what I mean? We're going to offer you this job. We'll give you whatever you need and back up the Brinks truck. And here you go. And force them to say no. Basically the top people. And then they had kind of like the lower, the second five. And they had Mario Cristobal on that list. They had, I believe, James Franklin on that list. I don't know. Do you have just a thought process? And I know you interviewed some Pac-12 people on who might be the better hire there.
So Urban Meyer, of course, has said that he's not interested. I can't imagine that Nick Saban would be interested.
No.
Dabo Sweeney.
He's also.
It just doesn't seem
Sweeney
like it doesn't seem like a Dabo Sweeney kind of job to me. He just doesn't seem like he would fit USC to me. The three names I talked to a USC guy this week, and the three names are pretty predictable, but Luke Fickell, Matt Campbell, James Franklin. In my estimation, I would go Campbell 1, Fickell 2, Franklin 3 out of those three. Anybody else? Let's see. Who else would be, you've got, I've heard Chris Peterson brought up. He stepped down if he was telling the truth based on too much pressure at Washington. So I would not want to err on the side of maybe this guy is kind of on the downside of his coaching career, like a Chris Peterson. And Chris Peterson's not an old man, and he could certainly take a job next year, and he's an exceptional coach, and that's one of the reasons he's being talked about. But just it seems like he's pretty much moved on or separated himself, and he might be one of these guys that takes a low pressure job at some point and just rides it out for a paycheck and does a decent job. I would want somebody with some fire in his belly, and I think Campbell and Fickle are those guys. And man, I'm not coming up with anybody else. David Shaw, maybe with the ability to recruit just about anybody he wanted to, David Shaw could do an exceptional job there. I don't know what his interest level would be, but he's an extremely smart man, that's for sure.
Yeah, I would look at probably three guys. I would probably say Franklin, possibly Campbell, although I don't know if that's the right fit. And then I would also look at Cristobal, although it's not like Cristobal has a bad thing going at Oregon with the Phil Knight money and the fact that they're recruiting at a pretty high level and already ahead of USC. But, I mean, it's going to be an interesting hire. Joel Klatt had made the point that they're kind of at a crossroads right now to where, that could tilt one way or another. They end up with Clay Helton Part 2 and they end up with mediocrity, or they get as close to Pete Carroll as they can and they go on to win the conference and be a legitimate top 5 program again.
Well, I do agree with what you had to say about the conference, if you're going to go in there. And that's why I thought that Urban Meyer may be interested at one point when he sees that recruiting footprint, matches that up against the conference and says, this is the weakest conference in the country. I get to go to the flagship program, which is in the heart of the best talent in 2 to 3 time zones. I can dominate this division. Right. I go to the championship game every year in the conference. I'm going to win 90% of the time, and I'm going to get respect because I'm Urban Meyer and I'm coaching at USC in terms of a playoff opportunity. The conference, you can look at it as a negative or a positive. It's a negative from the standpoint of money, revenue, reputation, perception. They'll not get the benefit of the doubt, those sorts of things. But in terms of just winning games and being in the discussion because you've got a weak schedule against a weak conference, then it's to your benefit.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what they do because I do agree with Klatt's opinion. I mean, this is one of those things that could, tilt one way or another. And, I think the right coach there gets that team to win the conference again, but time will tell. Hey, Mark, I will say this in closing. I think the Buckeyes are a lock tomorrow. I think we cover the 24. Was it 23.5 or 24 tomorrow, by the way? What's the last line you saw?
The first time I see it will be the next time I see it. I haven't looked at the point spread. I don't know what it is.
Okay. I think I saw 23.5 or 24, but either way, I think the Buckeyes cover tomorrow. They come out with some fire. Offense looks good. I'm just saying cover for the Buckeyes tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a pretty fair point spread at 24. By the way, USC's 2003 recruiting class was 22 Californians out of 25.
Okay. All right. So
just one class.
They did go heavy California. Okay. I thought that they had a little bit more out-of-state talent, on their other teams, but I could have been wrong.
Only one class. All right, Dave. Enjoy the game.
Enjoy the games, Mark. You take care of yourself.
Thanks a lot. All right, folks, we appreciate everyone being here. And again, this is just a rundown of our post-game shows tomorrow. Michigan State, Miami on the Miami channel, Florida State, Wake Forest on the Florida State channel, New Mexico, Texas A&M on our New Mexico channel. No, of course not. Texas A&M channel, Alabama, Florida bonus coverage. Listen to this on the Alabama and the Florida channels. And on the SEC channel. So we've got an Alabama postgame and a Florida postgame. Central Michigan, LSU postgame, Georgia postgame after they take on South Carolina in their first SEC game. We have Nebraska, Oklahoma covered from both sides on the Nebraska and OU channels. Texas postgame as well as Ohio State. That's going to be me in the hot seat for the Ohio State postgame. Michigan and Penn State postgame. And obviously, that's the primetime game, so I'm going to be here as well. We're going to have Penn State postgame on the Penn State channel and the Big Ten channel, but I'll be here late night. So I'm going to be here after the Ohio State game at 7-ish. And then following the primetime games, I will catch up with all of you and take your calls right here at the Voice of College Football. Great to see everyone. Keep in mind as well that we've got a spot for you to get your gear. So check us out here. So you'll see this is not the front page of the site. This is the front page of the store. The front page of the site looks like, if I can find it, looks like that. Go to voiceofcollegefootball.com. If you go to the top, you see store. You also see where you can write for us. How about that? If you would like to be a writer, click on that. You'll be in contact with me and we'll go from there. And again, we've got a store. Just check it out. See what you like. We've got Facebook. We've got Twitter. We got all those good things. Please check those out and help us build the channel. All right, folks. Cheryl, good to see you. As always, Sue, Sam, Savage Cabbage, and others. Number one ND fan, Tim Prangley. Don't want to miss anyone. Of course, I'm going to miss zillions, but Christ the Savior 888. Thank you so much for the Super Chat contributions. And there's somebody who gave me one in green early in the show, and unfortunately, I missed it, but thank you so much for that. If I miss a Super Chat in regards to posting it, it's because of where it was stacked in the live chat, so I apologize for that, and I feel horrible every time I miss a Super Chat. But thank you so much for being here. We're blowing it out big tomorrow. Post-game shows all over the place. I'll be here throughout the night, tomorrow night, and pre-game shows on the Oklahoma channel at 9 in the morning. And we got a Virginia Tech, West Virginia pre-game show, Hokie Hangover, right here. So check that out. That's going to be at 9 o'clock in the morning. I don't even think I'll be up to see it. That maybe a little bit. Right here, the Voice of College Football. I'm off to make my predictions. Join me on Patreon. There's a couple people who had questions about Patreon and how to pay through Cash App. I actually searched that a few minutes ago. I didn't really see a way to do that, and maybe somebody else did. But Patreon, 29-19 against the spread. This kid right here, 17-7 against the spread last week, yes. And I haven't even looked at the games this week, so I better get at it. But 17 cents per day, I think it pays off. Insider look, exclusive live stream per week, per request. Good place to be. We will see everyone on a college football Saturday tomorrow. The noon games are amazing. West Virginia, Virginia Tech, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Michigan State, Miami, and others I will be tracking. See you tomorrow.